Two.
Afternoon, Ryan. Afternoon, San Antonio. Afternoon, Texas. My name's Cruz. I've got Ryan Gonzales with Becker Properties. I'm with EMC Mortgage as a broker. Today's May 20th. Wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on in the market today and this last couple weeks. Obviously, Fed meetings, different announcements on what's going to happen in the market with rates and lending. Tell me what your week's been like, Ryan.
It's been good. It's been good, man. I've been working with a little bit more sellers actually than buyers, but working with both. We've talked about throughout our podcast how much inventory there's been on the market and how the market has kind of slowed down here in San Antonio. But I was surprised to see that there's been a lot more showing activity on my listings and more applications, right, that you're getting?
So it's funny you say that. Just in the last 2 weeks, I've picked up 15 loan apps. And out of those 15 loan apps, 10 are shopping right now.
Yeah.
And out of that 10, I would suspect probably 7 will be finding a home and closing in their deal probably in the next 2 to 4 weeks.
And it's since the beginning of the year. Have you seen this change? Or how have you seen this change?
This is significant. The only other time that was a little different was when we had a dip in the rates, once back in September and then once back in April, where for a little window of 2 days or 5 days, rates were magical. But yeah, just in the last 30 days, it's picked up significantly. A friend of mine right now that's with our team, I mean, he's helping about 15 families a month.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just helping.
So there is people buying out there, and it is picking up based off what we can see. I look at showings, I look at days on the market, you look at applications, and then, based off the closing that you're having off those applications, the percentage and stuff. So, yeah, I think the market is picking up a little bit here in San Antonio. And we've seen it actually slow down a little bit beforehand. Like if you compare last year to this year, the beginning of this year, it did slow down in some areas. So we're always looking on a yearly basis, year over year. And both my listings really went quick. But I want to bring up why I think they went quick and why I know they went quick is because we made the house as move-in ready as possible for the next buyer. This is so important, and sellers need to realize this. Keeping a really, really clean, decluttered house and doing little stuff here and there. Like we were talking with Katie the other day about how to prepare your house to sell, and there's certain things that you can do. I had one client, they had a rental, and they kept it in good shape, and so we were able to sell that house pretty quick because it was maintained properly over the last 3 years that they've had it, and we didn't have to do too much to that house. Really, it was good. It was a good price point, good area. The other client I had put about $10,000 in their house. It sounds like a lot, and it is, but it was definitely well worth it because that particular house had a couple of issues that definitely needed to be fixed, and it would have, if we didn't put that $10,000 in, I think we would have lost out like on probably $20,000 or maybe $30,000 because of the current condition it was in.
So I spent 10 to not lose 20 or 30.
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And so these are the type of things that we look at, and so it's not just about the money factor that you might make or not lose out on, but also the time on the market. Yes, exactly. And these particular clients had just bought a new house with me and you, and so they needed to get rid of that old house ASAP so they don't have 2 mortgage payments constantly.
Right.
And so they're excited. We didn't have to give up as much closing costs as we thought we were going to have to give up. We got full price, which was awesome. So that we didn't have to do too many repairs. So we're very, very happy. And so that's kind of my week so far. Actually, I'm drawing up an offer for a new buyer today.
I know a lender that can help them.
Yeah, these particular buyers are in a very fortunate situation. So their parents are helping out, and they're going to buy cash.
Even better for them.
So that's kind of rare these days. But they've been in a very good. They've been very responsible with their personal funds and saving up and stuff, and then they've been in a fortunate situation with their parents, and they're going to be able to buy cash. Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
going into your future life with little to no debt, knowing that your home is paid off, that's a wonderful feeling. I got no issue with them.
Yeah,
I mean that's a total win. That's what we're all trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that buying's been hard for buyers. As we look at the overall debt on credit cards or missed payments or whatnot, collection accounts I'm sure are way up right now. They're starting to be a little bit more foreclosures. So, you know, if you can get into a decent situation with a decent payment right now, I mean that's a win for sure.
I've got a weird question for you, Ryan. I mean, you're handling a lot of listings. You've been handling listings for the better part of more than 10 years now. Um, Tell me why you feel or believe that when a realtor brings a buyer to you and they want this amount in concessions and their pre-qual letter that they brought you is showing some insane rate. And we all know which mortgage companies overcharge customers.
Mm-hmm.
And you approach them and say, hey, listen, I can get your family an interview with another lender, a mortgage broker, and save you money. It seems like whenever that happens, most of these realtors refuse. It makes me wonder, are they getting something from that lender? Or are they tied to that lender for some odd reason that they're not able to get their family, or they don't want to get their family a better deal? What are your thoughts on that?
It's interesting you bring that up because we had a situation like this last week,
Yeah.
and you made that initial offer, and I presented it to him. I think what I used to do when I was presenting something like that is I try to get the lender I was currently working with to somewhat match the deal. You know, see if they can do something because you have another lender like yourself, a broker, being able to do that. So I don't know if they are getting a kickback. I've heard that too. I've heard some shady stuff too. But
Right.
but they may be getting kickback from that lender. That lender may be providing money for their marketing costs or lead costs. You know, they may be buying them leads. There may be something more than just the loyalty factor. Sometimes they are just loyal and they don't want to put too much stress or overwhelm the buyer by presenting them a different option when they're about to go into an offer. That may be a situation. So there's a number of things that.
So some reasons could be valid, some could be
Sure.
questionable.
Who knows if they even presented the offer to the buyer? So that's what I'm thinking. And you're probably going to bring that up right now, right?
I mean, that was my comment earlier today was everything that I've heard about realtors is we have a fiduciary responsibility to our clients to present them the best opportunity. If you're walking in to make an offer and you're asking a seller to give up all this money, wouldn't it be reasonable that the seller say, why don't you look at another lender? Maybe you can get a better deal and you don't need as much of my money to buy that home and afford the payment that you'd like?
Yeah, I mean, it was great for me because when I offered that initially, they were asking for like $5,000 in closing costs, and I was like, "Well, I can get you two of that for sure, but you got to go through this other lender." And then they ended up asking for, "Oh, we'll just take three then." And so it was kind of weird. It was
Very bizarre.
Yes, it was kind of weird. It worked out good for us because I used it as leverage. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So I got my clients a little bit more money, but it was. I don't know how much they really thought about it or entertained it, to be honest with you. And that's just, that's something
Listen,
we got
I
to deal
get
with.
it.
But what I was also going to say is that going back to your comment about the fiduciary duty, I strongly believe in that. And so I've always tried to give multiple lender contacts to my buyers and ask them to interview, because we were talking about this the other day. Some buyers and lenders may not be good fits for whatever reason.
Agreed.
And I feel like any type of veteran, I would love to send to you as a veteran, because I feel like you can just help that buyer so much more and relate to that buyer so much more versus someone that
Never served.
Yeah, never served and doesn't have any idea of what this veteran has gone through. So that makes sense to me. So I try to have multiple lenders and give out multiple referrals for that very reason, and not try to steer them in one direction or the other. And also, we're looking at what are the best lowest fees, what are the best rates and stuff like that. That all matters, right? What are this buyer's goals essentially? Like, everybody wants the best rate and the cheapest fees and stuff like that. But we were talking about this the other day. that can cause a lack of service if you go with the cheapest sometimes, like that one lender that we all know and
Yes.
and don't like, but sometimes use. So,
You know, it takes me to a transition when I was really looking at rates and payments. And part of the conversations that we'll have with buyers is, do they understand their buying power? Do they understand what the value proposition of getting a better rate is? And so I put something up on a board right now that I really wanted us to quickly talk about.
yeah, let's explain that.
So on the left, that's your retail box lender. That's your mortgage company that everyone wants to use or everyone's heard about.
Maybe their bank.
Maybe the bank. And right now they're going to offer a higher rate just because they've got a lot more overhead than a broker. They've got to pay for their offices. They've got to pay for their assistant managers. They got to pay for their regional managers. The owners want to make a cut on the money. And, oh, yeah, the loan officer still has his Porsche payment.
Oh, and the marketing department, too.
Oh, marketing. I mean, there's just a litany of cost.
A lot.
So they're going to charge a higher rate, and your payment on a $400,000 loan is $2,661.
And that's just principal and interest, right?
Just principal and interest.
Okay.
But you can go to a broker like me or any other regional broker, and you're going to get a rate that's probably 1% cheaper, 5.99 in today's market. Same loan scenario that I built, same credit score, same criteria. But your loan is now going to be almost $45,000 bigger. Your buying power for the exact same payment.
Yep.
So let me ask you, this is my question, Ryan. Wouldn't your buyer want to know that for the exact same payment, they have $45,000 of more options to look at?
Absolutely. So that's one of the things that we struggled with when the rates started going up last year, right? Even the year prior a little bit. So when those started happening, we started looking at really shopping rates, right? Really shopping rates and reaching out to brokers and using brokers or lenders that just had the lowest fees and rates, because it became so important because we immediately saw the purchasing power reduce, right?
Right.
It has such a huge effect. And you're not really understanding that if you haven't been following the market. So this is a great point you brought up, because new buyers that are getting into this market right now may not even know that this is an option. They hear a lot of chatter, friends, family member, or whatnot, but that is so significant because there's certain areas that most buyers want to be in, ideally maybe close to a school or their work, maybe off a major highway or interstate. And so the clients that I'm looking with right now, they have to stay below a certain price point. And the area we're looking in, there's only so many options. So the more purchasing power you can get, I mean, it just opens up the doors.
There's a woman that I'm working with right now, single mom, living in Austin. She needs to be close to her school for the child. She needs to be close to her work. In case something happens, she can leave work and attend to her child quickly. They have some personal reasons, some health reasons. At the end of the day, buying power really matters for her. The first lender that she had talked to had limited her to like a $300,000 loan. I got her close to $350,000, and her payment's only $30 more. That's $50,000.
That's a huge difference.
That's.
So yeah, not just the purchasing power too. Like if the buyer's okay with that price point that they originally get pre-approved at, wouldn't they like a lower payment?
Yeah.
So looking at that option too. If you're honestly right now in this market, if you're not going to a broker and getting a quote by them and seeing what they can do for you, I mean, you're doing it wrong for sure.
Well, you're overpaying.
Yeah.
You're overpaying because some loan officer has to work at a company where he has to be managed. Mm-hmm. And all those managers, they want to cut. And it's not cool.
Yeah, so like, how long ago did you become a broker? Was it
I moved into this world a year ago.
About a year ago? Okay.
Yeah.
And before that, moving into this world, it wasn't only about the rates and the fees and stuff that you could do.
I had a team to support, and I had to look out for what might have been an adverse impact to them. But looking at I had probably lost 50% of the leads that I had gotten throughout January and June
Just based off rate.
just because they went somewhere else with a better rate.
Yeah.
I mean, half of those deals were literally families already under contract, and I can't fault them for wanting a better deal.
You think a lot of lenders in general are moving over to the broker?
It's funny you say that. We just got some statistical data recently that the broker market now has almost 30% of the nationwide business. 30%.
Yeah.
I mean, it's growing.
Up from like 20 or
22, I think, was the number last year. So it's growing. People are getting more educated that working with brokers is going to give them a winning position. Working with a lender, a regular lender that only has one rate channel, they're never going to win the deal. It's just a fact. They'll get sold, and they'll make that higher payment, and they'll buy less house.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line. It's just math.
Yeah, and this lender that has this higher rate, they know what's going on too. They're not going to just tell the buyer, hey, you can get a better deal somewhere else.
No, why would they? Because then they lose their commissions and they don't have their money for their push payment.
Yeah, so it's good that we're doing this to let the folks out there know there's another option than just like your bank or your regular lender. That
You just got to get out there and look.
You gotta really get educated out there. Yeah.
It's funny because the lady that I was talking with, she had said, well, what does it mean to be a broker? And I said, well, we have 165 lenders. She says, no, I thought you were the lender. I said, I'm a mortgage broker, and we shop your loan to all the lenders. I said, I can push one button and look at 165 lenders and see which options give you the best rate, the fastest closing time, the cheapest loan, or the cheapest payment. And we can put all of those in front of you, and now you have a very educated choice.
Yeah, I would say the only negative that I would say from the broker side, and this is not your fault, would be that some of the lenders that you use, their wholesale divisions are
challenged,
horrible.
We've worked with one.
Yeah, definitely. It's tough. It's lack of communication and just like kind of talking to maybe multiple people or them losing something or not on top of it.
Over underwriting.
Yeah, and it could be like an underwriting situation like we had last time. So I think the buyer should just be aware of that too. Like you definitely.
And we'll talk about that,
yes,
Brian.
Of course, right?
I mean, we're going to say, hey, listen, if you want to go to this cheapest lender, you're going to need to experience or going to expect to experience the cheapest process.
And it may take a little bit longer than normal,
right.
or that initial that last week, right? Those last couple of days are the most challenging with lenders like that because they have certain processes they have to do, and those turnaround times are just sometimes longer, right?
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
We that lady that I'm working with in Austin that I spoke with, she said, listen, I have a deadline that I have to be in my new home by a certain date. And I said, well, look, you have about 75 days from when we spoke to find a home, close a deal. I said, I've got lenders that can close your deal in 14 days. I've got lenders that I can give them the same deal and they're going to take 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you might get a little cheaper rate and a little lower payment and save $20, but you're going to have to deal with a little more clumsy process or a little more overwriting, a little more explanation.
Yeah.
And it might be just a little frustrating. And she said, for $20, I don't care. I can get she goes, if I can get a loan done in 14 days, I don't care about $20.
Yeah. I think that's very important to most buyers. And going into the situation, you're just overwhelmed with emotion,
right?
And also a lot of unknown concepts that you haven't heard before, verbiage you haven't heard before. So anything to make that process a little easier, and it's not going to cost.
It matters.
Yeah, it matters for sure.
I got a different question for you. As we have talked about the Federal Reserve not lowering mortgage rates, that has a very ongoing negative message that rates are high, rates are high, rates are high. I mean, if we look at a 30-year, 50-year average of rates are pretty average right now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, house prices have gone up.
Mm-hmm.
But if house prices have gone up, their odds are going to keep going up. So waiting doesn't make sense. In a market where, and I think we could call it a buyer's market right now, versus a seller's market. Explain that and why one is different than the other.
Sure. 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, we had a really heavy seller's market. Really 2021, right after COVID, people started buying like crazy. Inventory went way down. We're talking here in San Antonio, I remember it being 1 month, which meant if no other listings came on the market in a month, we would be out of listings. That's what that means. And that is so crazy. Austin was at 2 weeks at one point, which is insane. So this is a lot of demand for very little supply. What happens in that situation? Houses go up, bidding wars. People are overpaying. People are waiving contingencies. That
Sellers weren't paying any closing costs.
Oh no, they were getting way over their asking price.
Yeah.
And so there was a challenge with appraisals at that time a little bit. There, some appraisers would see the demand and they would take that into account and they'd be like, okay, to appraise. Other times they would not appraise that house for what you're trying to buy it for. Buyers would have to come out of pocket the difference.
So in a seller's market, not only am I going to pay more money, I'm going to, for the house, I'm also going to pay more money for the loan, and I'm also going to be challenged with appraisers.
Oh my God. So difficult for buyers.
Making value on these homes.
And at that time, I was actually probably more buyer heavy. I was probably like 70-30 buyer heavy. So I had to learn real quick on how to present these offers. Like we're talking about competing against 10, 15 offers was normal.
If you came to me and said, oh, Carlos, you have to offer 50 grand more, I'm going to tell you to go pound sand. But I get it. It was.
You bought in 21, right?
I bought and I had to overpay.
Okay, so did I. I bought in 21 as well. I paid about $20,000 over, and I think you paid a pretty significant amount as well.
Yeah.
It was just the norm, right? To win the bid, if you really wanted the house, there wasn't much
The only way
supply.
we did it, Ryan, was we sold our other house, and we made so much money on that house, very candidly, that I wasn't going to not be in a home. And, at my age, I had the luxury of listening when my wife said, this is what I want, and saying, okay. Like your family right now that's paying cash for their child.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good thing. That's what you want, but it's not something that everybody can do.
Sure.
So what are my advantages in a buyer's market?
The buyer's market is a buyer's market. It's way more conducive for buyers. More inventory gives you more time to shop, gives you more options, gives you more negotiating power. So definitely in San Antonio, the ball is in the buyer's court right now. And it's a lot more comfortable for buyers overall because a lot of these buyers are first-time buyers, maybe second-time buyers. Either way, the person in the buying seat is a little bit more nervous than the seller in general. And they have all these questions. They got to get the inspection. They're concerned about the value, overpaying, or what the moving costs are going to be. All these different costs are going through their heads. So to make their process easier, or to have their process easier now in a buying market, it makes everything easier, makes everything flow a lot better. And buyers are feeling like they're getting good deals. Beforehand, it's funny because they thought they were getting a good deal too because they won the bid, but some of those buyers overpaid because if you look at the market now, some of those areas either haven't appraised or have maybe gone down a little bit, and you're going to have to wait a couple years before you make some money on that house. And it's funny because there's actually a scenario where one of those listings that I just sold, we actually listed it for, I believe, 10 under what we bought it for, 5 or 10, I can't remember exactly, but they're losing a little money on that house. They made money during the rental side of it, but at the end of the day, that area, unfortunately, was one of the areas that went down a little bit. And so that's why I don't like the seller market like that. I mean, it
was unhealthy.
It was bad. I told everybody too. I was like, man, there's no way this is sustainable. Like, the rates were low. Yes, get the great. If you're gonna overpay for a house, yes, but but because we had to win the bid. But there was some times where I would advise the buyers not to even compete in this for this particular house, just because I didn't see the potential there in that area,
Right.
neighborhood, or whatnot. Because this was happening across the board with just about every single house, so that was crazy. So right now we're in a buyer's market, especially in San Antonio, which I really like.
So as a buyer right now, May going into the summer 2025, I'm going to have more choices.
Mm-hmm.
Prices are prices. They might not be what I want to pay, but they're still going up slower.
Mm-hmm. In most areas, yes.
Yeah. And so, but the seller still needs to sell, knowing that he's competing against all these other houses. Now that seller might be chipping in some, if not even all, of my closing costs, which could be $10,000 to $15,000.
I tell the sellers up front. I mean, you're probably looking at pitching in about $10,000 to $12,000 in closing costs. That's probably what they're going to ask for. I mean,
Right.
It's always negotiable. It depends on how long it's been on the market, how we price it, if we price it right, if we do those necessary repairs and upgrades beforehand. So this is why I advise a certain way when we go to list a house, especially now. You have to be so on point with that. If you're just looking at, as a realtor, if you're just looking at price per square foot and trying to list it that way, and your pictures really aren't on point, you don't have video, you don't have a walkthrough, like a Matterport walkthrough, there's a lot of stuff that's working against you as that listing, because there's a lot of other people that are doing it right, and those houses that are moving ready, upgraded a little bit, those are selling a lot faster.
I got a phone call the other day. Here's a really funny one. I got a phone call from a realtor in Austin offering to buy my house cash. And, you know, I do live in the world that any house is for sale if it's the right price. And I know what my house is worth, but I don't want to sell my house. So I think I called you one day and I'm like, I want to know, is this my number a reasonable number? And is this a number that would just really totally piss somebody off? So I gave him the pissed off number.
The go away price?
Yeah, the go away number. And they called me back the other day.
Really?
Yeah,
What'd they say? What happened?
I didn't have time to take the call. I was busy. I mean, at the end of the day, I talked to my wife. She's like, I don't want to move. I don't want to move. She goes, we've invested so much here. You know, we've got 3 puppies. Our dogs now have their own little private little park area. So
it's a solid area.
yeah,
Solid area, solid house.
but it was tempting.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I did not expect a call back.
Man, I'm so curious on what they were going to say.
I don't want to know.
That's funny. Well, I guess we've talked about what we need to talk about today.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I do have a little bit. And I'm going to keep saying the same thing over and over again. Even if you are not ready to buy, not ready to move, not ready to be in a new home, get on the phone and talk to one of us. Because even if whether it's just a DM question or it's a phone call or it's a 2-hour meeting, get an idea of what it takes to get into a home, because paying rent, it's just gross and it's just going to keep going up, and you got nothing when you're ready to leave.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. We just encourage you to reach out because we love educating, and we really feel like we can help you in any situation.
Agreed.
I mean, you being the broker, you just have so many more options now, especially. But at the end of the day, people should not be afraid of reaching out and just asking questions if they're looking at purchasing. It doesn't even have to be in the next couple months, a year out or whatnot, just to prepare. And especially this is good for anybody who's self-employed. Because
that's huge.
Yeah, their situation may be a little different. They may have to file 2 years, maybe just 1 year. It all depends on what the actual business
On what
is.
one of my lenders would want.
Yeah, that too. And so some people don't even think it's an option. They're hearing all different types of things, but you just have so much knowledge in that department. So I would definitely encourage people to reach out for that. And also, we had talked about doing maybe a buyer seminar soon. So be on the lookout for that.
I'd love to. I think getting a group of buyers to have a safe environment where they're able to meet and chat and then ask questions in a forum, I'm always in for that. I'd love to.
Cool. Sounds good. Well, Carlos, thanks for chatting with me today. And until next time, folks, we'll see you.
See you later.
Cool.
That was good.
Cool.